Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stat Check. This is episode 81, Sons of Slamguinius. We're here to talk about all things Warhammer, stats, meta, relevance, tournaments, all that good stuff. Anthony even played a singles tournament voluntarily, not under duress. We're here, we're back. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today on this lovely Tuesday night. My voice is almost back to normal, so I'll probably even do the plugs really shittily later on tonight. You guys have a lot to look forward to. Nathan, Anthony are joining me today. We are down one Jeremy because Jeremy is doing other things as he is wont to do on occasion. So check back for him another time. I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to start off with a lovely little roundup of how everybody's week has been, and then we'll move on to the stats. Nathan, would you like to start us off? How have you been?
I've been pretty good. I haven't played any 40k recently. I don't know. I've been painting some Custodes, which is, I don't know, fun. Otherwise, I downloaded Helldivers too, so that I could play kind of a version of 40k essentially, since it's about basically the same things.
It's about as 40k relevant as all the Crusade games you were telling us about. So
it's true. It's funny because I haven't played Crusade since 9th edition. But
yeah, the allegations will never
go in 9th edition. It's true. It's fine.
The allegations.
The allegations. Look, just because somebody could turn a Hive Tyrant into an ignoring invulnerable saves, extra mortal wounds on every single attack.
Who's somebody? Like we don't know it's you.
Somebody could have done.
I don't know who it is, but someone could. I'm just saying.
There's definitely not like a moment where that winged Hive Tyrant charged a Night Lancer and killed it basically on the go from top to zero.
That was just normal, right? So
yeah, that was just Tuesday for a Hive Tyrant.
It's fair. 9th edition Hive Tyrants were so much more fun than 10th edition Hive Tyrants.
Yeah.
I think my Hive Tyrant's biggest accomplishment was killing a call and then dying horrifically in melee combat.
I think roughly anything is more interesting than a 10th edition Hive Tyrant, to be fair.
Oh, you mean feel no pain on a stick?
I don't even know if I would give them that.
Assault weapon aura.
There you go.
Delivery device. Otherwise, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons on Saturdays and doing Muay Thai stuff. Dungeons and Dragons is a lot of fun. I don't know.
Nice.
I'm enjoying that.
I'm the wrong kind of nerd for Dungeons and Dragons. I don't have that much imagination.
There's
dice and stats, bro. You'll be all right.
Yeah, it's actually quite fun. I just I don't know. Can you do an accent that's not,
No.
Even more Scottish somehow? No, you can't do voices.
Nope.
No. Fair enough. Innes, how was your weekend?
I actually played a bunch of Warhammer. I had one of my teammates over. We played 3 games into his Death Guard, just trying to get him some reps in for prepping for Home Nations and WDC. So bounced my head off of the Death Guard wall with Tyranids, which was utterly miserable, and then got to play them with Ironstorm, which is a lot more fun. And I got to try out the Grey Knights after the buffs, and they're a lot more interesting than I thought they were going to be. The Dread Knight buffs definitely make them super cool, like very, very mobile, lots of options. Being able to miss the Deimos, that data sheet is wildly hilarious in a lot of matchups. Very much did enjoy that. And getting full ignore modifiers and having it work in every tournament back on that Paladin brick makes it quite good at just picking up random garbage as side cannons and things like that, especially things named Catan, which do just love dying, do AP1, damage 2. Very, very nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing Grey Knights. It was really good fun to play Hypercrypt, but with somehow more shooting and more combat, except Catan, but Catan never made charges, so it was great. Really good fun. Really enjoyed it.
Anything that isn't Catan is more fun for you than.
Yeah,
you could basically have Catan if you ran Forsman's 6 Dread Knights.
And I'm sorry, but they're not. I don't care how good Dread Knights are. That list was cool. We have none of them are the Void Dragon.
It's fair. I mean, they're also. I guess they're not quite half the points of a Void Dragon. How much?
Not even close.
Why would you make me sad like that?
5 points less.
I was fucked up.
It was very specifically targeted at Anthony.
It worked. I don't know why you felt you had to do that.
I remember the Nightbringer's only 255 and a Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight's 230. I think. 200.
They're too expensive.
They are one Catachan squad different.
Yeah. One catechin. That's my newest favorite measurement for points. One
but
catechin squad.
Yeah, that's how we're gonna use points next edition. They heard that we didn't like power level or fixed war gear costs, so we're gonna buy everything in increments of Cadian command squad.
Love that so much. Anthony, how was your weekend?
I had a weekend. I played an RTT. It was really cool. It was at Rogue State Games. They streamed it. I did not play on stream. We it was sweet. We played GW terrain. It was differential scoring like WTC style, which is really nice in a singles environment because it gives you a reason to attempt to, push when you're getting rocked. Rather than just being like, I concede, you get 100, good job, and then you just like fuck off into the lunch break, which can be a good or a bad thing depending on your perspective. How much you actually feel like playing 40k, but presumably you signed up to play 3 games, you're at least a little bit interested. I think we launched with 38 people, maybe 40. It was real silly. Like Dom said, I went and played a local RTT.
As Dominic Galliano says, Anthony's weekend was amazing. He came and bullied us all at a local RTT. What a swell guy! All caps.
Yeah, I do my best. It was cool. Getting to see everybody again was nice. Getting to play Blood Angels again for the first time in God knows how long, literally a full 2 years, ? Was cool. I haven't played them in ages. I played them because I was just not willing to accept just getting no-sold by Custodes. So I took an army that hate fucks them instead. And yeah, it was productive. It was good. It worked out well. I didn't have to play Custodes, but if I did, I was ready.
What did you
Were
play?
there any?
What was your list and what did you play against?
So I played Sons of Sanguinius. I played 15 Jump Death Company, 10 Death Company on foot, a Redeemer, 2 Ball Predators, and basically like a smattering of characters. I played 2 Captains and Assault Intercessor squads. Lamartes, the Sanguinor, and a Chaplain, who had an enhancement that I just remembered now that I took. So don't worry about that. And that's pretty much it. All the Death Company had like Power Fists and Inferno Pistols. The Inferno Pistols were very funny all weekend. Why they get reroll hits and shooting as well.
They get sustained hits and shooting as well, I'm pretty sure.
They sure do. It's real silly. It's not even that it's like that dumb. It's just very like why.
I did have to ask an opponent playing Blood Angels like 3 times in a row if they really got rerolled hits during the shooting phase.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they should, but boy, oh boy, do they.
The confusing thing is always why do they get 5 Inferno Pistols per 5 guys when there's like 1 in the box?
There's 2 in the box, thank you.
2 in the box.
And I don't fucking know. Why did Tau get to run all cyclics still?
Hold on.
Who knows?
We're allowed to be shocked that Anthony knew it was in the box, right? When's the last time you built models?
COVID? I think
This Blood Angels army.
Yeah, I think that Blood Angels army that I played, the Death Company in those Blood Angels.
I was like thinking back to when I first met Anthony, he was talking about Blood Angels. That sounds about accurate.
Yeah. I think the Death Company in those Blood Angels is the last time that I built models. Fun fact: my Death Company in my Blood Angels army are painted like ghosts because when I first started playing, was in 8th edition, and I was bad. So I had a friend that was local to us that played Ultramarines, and every time I would go to use my Death Company, they wouldn't see melee. Like I would drop in, get Overwatched, drop in, get Auspex scanned, drop in, get Buddy Overwatched. Like it was just like I was not good at the game, and I kept dying before I made combat. So when my Deathwatch ultimately got painted up, they're all painted as ghosts. So that's that. Anyway, yeah, the list was really good. I got to play against 3 cool opponents. My first opponent, Jasper, went 5-1 at LVO this year. He was really cool. Young kid, freshman in college, which to me seems like it should be more recent in my memory than it is. And it's just not. That's a long time ago now. So yeah, it was cool. I got to play against him. He was playing World Leaders. Jackals are not as good as he thought they were, and they are roughly as good as I thought they were. They were helpful in that matchup, but not very. Then I played against the Dark Angels Ironstorm with the burb. That was cool. Got a little too close though, and it was in hover, and bad things happened to good people after that. And then in the last game, I got to play against Hypercrypt, and that featured a turn where 2 Satan and a Monolith died in the same turn. The Monolith died from 18 to 7 Marine bodies, so that was fun. That's 4 Death Company, 1 Captain, and 2 Assault Intercessors killed the Monolith from 18. It was a great day.
Sounds like it was the Captain's finest hour.
It was the Captain's finest hour. The Monolith made the rookie error of being ever slightly too close to an objective. Actually, no.
The gun tip over the edge is like hovering over it, therefore he's on it.
It died like before some of the intercessors swung. The whole thing was a mess. Like that army hits way too hard, but whatever, it was fun. As there was like I was expecting to be like, oh, I should be Gladius at some point, and the entire time I was just like, no, I moved on to the objectives, and all the stuff on the objectives is dead, and I don't need advanced charge. So it was fine. It went well.
It's fine.
Yeah, I played that army today in the red shell, and when you get to make the objectives to get the rerolls on, good fun.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
All right, let's talk stats, and then we'll talk just tactics
Generally
from Blood
Warhammer.
Angels for day. We'll talk about Blood Angels tactics for a while, since I think people are really excited to see Anthony playing old armies again.
It's just good to hear Anthony playing something that's not World Eaters after he's been better World Eater player since like this time last year.
It's okay to be bitter. You've been a bitter player before.
Oh, I'm still better about this day at Tyranids. Don't worry about it. We can do better.
We can do better, and that's why you're
Anthony
bitter.
microdosed like a month of Chaos Space Marine shooting, and he's not been the same.
Oh, that was terrible. That was the worst month.
This last weekend, there were 11 GT-sized events or bigger that we tracked. So that's 5 plus round, 25 plus players, which makes it another bumper weekend essentially for 40K at this point. I think the previous weekend was like 13 or 14 events, and then we have 11 events this weekend. Our number one faction for the weekend was Custodes by win rate. They made up 8% of the meta, 56.7% win rate. They won a GT. They top 4'd 4 times and top 10'd 12 times and had a 1.07 for overrep. Right underneath them is Necrons, who had almost a 10% meta representation, a 55.7% win rate, 1 GT win, 5 top 4s, 19 top 10s, and a 1.08.
On Necrons, do we think Josh Roberts will win more events with that list, or Admech will win more events this tournament or this edition?
Oh, Josh with the list.
Josh will win more events.
It's not even fucking close. Isn't he up to like 6?
I think it's like 4 with that list now.
Yeah,
But
True. And then Sisters of Battle are in third. They had 2.4% of the meta, 54.4% win rate. They won a GT. They had 2 top 4s, 3 top 10s, and a 1.74 for overrep. Continuing to just do the God Emperor's work, basically, with that army in small numbers.
Sister's quite good. Shocked.
Sister's actually OP. Calling it.
And then Black Templars took home their 2 first GT wins, essentially, this weekend. With a 3.5% meta representation, a 53.5% win rate. They had 2 event wins, 3 top 4s, 5 top 10s, and a 1.81 overrep. So finally, kind of, somebody put it, I think, on Reddit or something like that. The always the bridesmaid, never the bride faction finally is becoming the bride repeatedly, I guess. I don't know. Eldari round out the top 5. 5% meta representation, which is like half of what they were, which is a little funny. 53.1% win rate, 1 event win, 6 top 4s, 11 top 10s, and still a 2.57 overrep ratio.
I mean, where do we think all the Custodians players came from, to be fair? But
It's true. I mean, it doesn't help that their meta representation dropped a bit, but like a bunch of top players are still playing Eldar, so they do really well at events as well. I don't know. That faction didn't get nerfed that hard, is really the truth of it.
Didn't get nerfed hard enough, one might say.
Yep. And then to round out just the rest of the people who won GTs, Thousand Suns won a GT with a 51.7% win rate. Imperial Knights won their first GT with a 49.5% win rate, which I assume is actually just mostly that one person that won. Dark Angels won with, I assume, the double Storm Raven list that's been floating
was
around.
Kahana with double Storm Raven.
Yep. And then Astra Militarum won 2 two events this last weekend. One of which was David Gaylord just proving his point and making Reddit real mad about it at the same time.
As it turns out, Guard can win a super major. Shock.
Yep. Shock and awe. The Astra Militarum being put in the super major winning tier was in fact accurate. At the bottom, we have Adeptus Mechanicus with a 42.6% win rate and no placements to speak of. Space Marines are sad. 5.9% of the meta, 42.7% win rate. Also a 0 for overrep, but they did have 3 top 10s. Then it's Death Watch at a 43.9. No overrep whatsoever to speak of. And then Chaos Space Marines, 3.4% of the meta, which is like half to a third of what they were at one point, and a 44% win rate. And then rounding out the bottom 5 is World Eaters with a 44.1% win rate and a single top 10. And Blood Angels slightly above them at a 46.3. Also with a 0.
As we know, Blood Angels suck.
Yeah, I play exclusively shit armies, everyone.
I just
CSM
wanted to roll.
Hey, that's your back.
I did just definitely see Blood Angels right above World Eaters and was like, I know what to do today. Just roll them together for Anthony today.
That's right, Anthony. You can transition over from calling Blood Angels bad White Scars to bad World Eaters.
Just bad, actually. I've just settled on bad. They just are bad. They're not good.
Everybody knows that every army Olivier plays is terrible.
The one thing that I also... Go ahead.
I didn't have anything to add. Productive.
Yeah, like, objectively probably true, but once somebody takes Olivier's army and makes it real, it's great.
No.
So we'll
I think it's super interesting how Chaos Space Marines got all the nerfs that Eldar deserved.
It's true. We're gonna talk a little bit more about this in a second. So I'm gonna pull up the 4 weeks of data essentially, so that 4 weeks of pure post slate data. The top faction is pretty predictable, I think. It's just Custodes. Custodes with 244 players, 8% of the meta, and a 56.7% win rate. They've won 5 events, 22 top 4s, and 45 top 10s for a 1.45 overrep. And then it's Necrons at 9.8% of the meta and a 55.7% win rate, 7 event wins.
What a terrible time to play singles.
31 top 4s, 74 top 10s, and a 1.65.
Like 30% of your meta game is just idiots rolling 4-ups at you, and
you just hope for the best that they die. You're like, all right, well.
We've returned to the like Tau Custodes day where it's 2 factions taking up 18 to 20% of the meta nobody wants to play against.
I think that it's just this time of year. I think January through March is just fucking cursed. It's just not allowed to be good.
What was this time last year? This time last year was
Toadies.
It was Taustodes last year.
No, because this time last year was Last Elvio, right? Which was Thousands
and
Flamers.
It was Thousands and Flamers. This time last year was actually like kind of.
It was pretty alright because it was like right after the Thousand Suns nerfs.
Yeah,
we just didn't play them for Elvio because nobody wanted to have fun at Elvio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then running out the top 5 is Sisters of Battle, who have 4 event wins, 6 top 4s, and 12 top 10s. Black Templars, who have both of their event wins this last weekend.
It was Dark Angels this time last year. Let's not go back. It's so much better.
And then in 5th place is Eldari with 3 event wins, 15 top 4s, and 24 top 10s.
Eldari nerfed all the way down from 2nd to 5th.
Yep. And then at the bottom, just
come on,
is Adeptus Mechanicus.
Oh, okay.
At a 42.6% win rate. I'm sorry, AdMech players. 1 top 4, and 4 top 10s. And
dude, I was so ready to be sad. I was like, yep, here it comes.
Don't get too excited, Anthony.
What do you mean?
Space Marines are next from the bottom at a 42.7% win rate, but they have 2 event wins, 6 top 4s, and 15 top 10s.
Space Marines are the best army in the game. Fuck off.
It's so confusing because I'm just like, I reckon Space Marines are like 1 or 2 right now, and they're just second place.
They're still piloted by Space Marine players.
Yeah.
Death Watch is next, who only have had 13 players in the last 4 weeks, and have a single top 10 to their belt.
10 more than they deserve.
Chaos Space Marines are 4th from the bottom. 44% win rate, 2 event wins, 4 top 4s, 11 top 10s.
And I think both those event wins are like in Germany. So I think they're just like something in the water there. They're just like Chaos Space Marines are doing well and nowhere else.
Yeah,
And then
a list with Harkin won in Germany. It's gonna be fine.
Harkin and 10 Raptors. You said something in the chat. You were like, yeah, that unit slaps. And I read the data sheet. I'm like, slaps what?
It slaps mortal wounds into your face. It's funny.
5th from the bottom is World Eaters, 3.2% meta representation, a 44.1% win rate. One event win,
Death Watch
5 top 4s
here within the month.
And then in 6th from the bottom is Blood Angels.
Fuck. No.
46.3% win rate.
Dude, my
5
armies
top
are
4s,
3 of the
12
bottom
top 10s.
6. The only army that I have that's not in the bottom 6 is Drukhari, which should be the bottom.
Drukhari are in the middle. They have a 50.1% win rate, 3 event wins, 4 top 4s, 17 top 10s, and a 0.55 over rep. Because that army is such like an adrenaline rush where if you make a mistake, you just die.
Yeah,
Fritz Vaughn just refuses to let the army slide. Like he's just holding the line right in the middle.
Yeah.
And I guess since David is in chat, I will do the Astra Militarum numbers. So Astra Militarum, 150 players, 4.9% meta representation, a 47.5% win rate, 4 event wins, 10 top 4s, 20 top 10s, and a 1.07 over rep. So just perfectly balanced in every way.
Can I ask for one thing on the guard stats? What's the average win rate and what's the veteran win rate?
You're going to make me open up the stat check website,
tab,
which is stat-check.com/the-meta, where you can look at all of these things. I will go to player faction, GT experience. We're going to go with experienced and veteran because that seems the most fun to me today. Experienced and veteran for Astra Militarum is 55. And then if we do just veteran, which is people who've gone to a lot of GTs, really, they shoot up to 69%, which puts them in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 6 for win rate.
Look, guard aren't bad, guys. Fireside are almost always right. Guard players, on average, just aren't that great.
And that's before we add in this weekend of data, because this data is still getting QC checked by Jeremy. So you all get a preview of what it is. It might change a little bit here and there. So once we add this in, we'll probably see it like 70% because David's numbers will be added in, and that will...
Nas's will tank it a little bit.
True, but that's just Nas. Nas is going to do that. Nas is going to get penned in by Space Wolves again in every event that he goes to from now on.
Thunderwolf jail. Man got 6 Thunderwolves rapid ingress into 20-inch move into Charge's deployment zone on turn 2. Good stuff. It's exactly that. That's just Warhammer to me.
It's just peak Warhammer 40k in 10th edition where somebody
brought
gets
a bunch
rapid
of tanks.
ingress into you.
Wolf jail.
Wolf jail. That's next week's episode. Next week's episode can be Wolf Jail. And I'm going to change the background to 3 wolves howling at the moon.
Inside your deployment zone, there are 2 wolves. That's too many wolves.
Unrelated. I'm not going to be on next week.
All right. So in the words of the stats, like Astra Militarum are fine. If you look at, you just have to change how you play to what I think is a pretty boring style of play, honestly. Yeah, triple mana cores isn't exciting. Neither is 2 mana cores, 2 basilisks.
There's like 30 Kazakin and 12 Bulgarian in every single one of those lists. That's exciting for guard. Those are units in the deployment zone.
The 30 Kasserkin is kind of fun to tool around with. I won't lie.
You mean to tell me the faction of regular ass humans in a fantasy setting is boring? Fuck. What are the odds?
I don't know. I just want more tanks, bud. More tanks to go vroom vroom with.
Dude, you know other armies have tanks?
No, not a single other army has a tank. At least they don't have tanks like I remember them. No, I'm kidding. I'm not that old.
Guard are the only army that can use your granddad's Revel models that you get in the garage.
Therefore, it's true. You can pull the World War I tanks out. It's the only one where you can pull World War I model tanks out and it looks fine. Running on diesel in a dream.
You just got like your granddad's like Waterloo statue on a base. That's Leonis.
It's true. It wouldn't be that far off, really. All right. We're going to transition now to the middle of the show where we talk about Blood Angels and Blood Angels accessories.
Is Blood Angels accessories my opponents?
Yes.
Nice.
Why don't we talk
Much
a
fun
little
is
bit
the
about...
Sanguinar? Why is that Daishi just the most fun Daishi?
It's fun, except when he the Sanguinar bounce is pretty sad though.
Yeah,
Like
he doesn't do any damage.
The drop in do nothing, and you're
it's
like,
the fear in your opponent's eyes when you tell them that you could use the Sanguinar. So for anybody who doesn't know, the Sanguinar has an ability that from turn 2 onwards, because he can start in reserve, he can just, when your opponent puts himself into melee, you just put the Sanguinar in engage range of that unit. And then he has fight first and 8 attacks at 6, 3, 2 devastating wounds. And he will miss 3 times, fail to wound 3 times, do 2 devastating wounds in the passive or up save. And then you've just met a C1 epic challenge, and then he'll die. Just like straight up die. But the look of fear in your opponent's eyes when you're like, if you charge me, the Sanguinar's gonna drop down, and here's his stats. Like they'll just not charge you. It's great.
you get to do my other favorite thing, which is something I do even if I don't have the CP for Rapid Ingress, which is, are you done moving? And watch them be like, what?
Carefully measuring out 9 inches from every single unit really fast.
Yeah.
Basically, the Yinkarn is my favorite summary of the Sanguinor. Basically, the Yinkarn, yes. That's not even remotely true, but you're sure.
Dropping him down because he doesn't have to place in base to base, he just places in engagement range, is that you can drop him down like an inch away from like one model that's damaged, kill that model, not be in combat, and just like go on an adventure somewhere else.
Or just pick up a character for freezies. He's fun.
Yeah. And then Sons of Sanguinius has a fallback and charge stratagem, so you can do some funny stuff with Sanguinar.
He just does that.
He does that for free by himself. Cool. I definitely wasted the CP into NAS today.
He just does that.
I should read his data sheet again.
Let's start at the top. What is the Sons of Sanguinius detachment, and why are people taking it?
They're taking it because Blood Angels have been good this entire time, but sometimes when you give something just small enough of a buff, think people will look at it again.
He doesn't fall back in charge. That was last edition.
Are you sure?
Yep, I'm looking at his data sheet now. He has a 6-inch aura of reroll battle truck and leadership, and he can once per game set up an engagement range of a unit that charges, and that's it.
Oh, wrong edition then.
So, what does Sons of Sanguinius give you?
It gives you +2 strength and +1 attack when you charge. It gives you fight and death and armor of contempt. And if it does anything else, I haven't used it.
There's a battle tactic for lance and lethal hits.
Oh, sorry, that's important too. I forgot about that. Yeah,
There's also a battle tactic for consolidate 6 inches as long as you make engagement range with an enemy unit.
That I've never used.
Very funny in certain situations.
Yeah,
not
like a Death
amazing
Company
always,
Dreadnought.
but yeah, the Death Company. Or just like your Death Company squad that has, if you fall back, you have to Desperate Breakout that just goes and touches everything.
Yeah, that thing's real rude.
And so what kind of are the key units for this Blood Angels army that we're talking about? Because Anthony, you said you took like 25 or something Death Company.
Yeah, I took 25 total Death Company. Basically, Death Company of all stripes have a rule that says they reroll hits. They're OC 0 unless there's a chaplain within 12 ? And they can't fall back unless there's a chaplain nearby or something. I've never fallen back with them across 5 games, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, they hit really hard. Not needing oaths is funny. Like you basically spend the whole game like using oaths for like your Redeemer's assault cannon and your captains. Or like Overwatch or the Sanguinor preemptively, like if for the following turn, that's real big brain
the
game.
Hunter Killer on your Rhino, like really
Yeah,
whatever
there you go.
want.
Yeah. Oaths doesn't matter. Your army mechanic is just like woohoo nonsense at that point. So you just play the game with these dudes who are real mad and reroll hits and have lance and lethal, and they hit real hard. Your Death Company units, the 10-mans, also either have +1 to wound or lethal already from the thing leading them. So half the time you use that strat for like half of it, half of what it's doing, which is kind of stupid. But, whatever. It's fine.
And then the kind of like the core mechanics there, the Death Company with jump packs will usually be led by the Marties, which give them lethal hits and -1 damage, which -1 damage on a 2-wound model with a Feel No Pain is really obnoxious, especially when you have armor contempt access and you're coming out of Deep Strike and Rapid Ingressing and just
Usually
generally being a pain in the backside. You can also just like naturally rule the charge. So if you're like not feeling like the CP and you can drop somewhere safe, drop in, throw a 9. If it doesn't work, move next turn. It really like doesn't cost you that much if you're not playing into indirect.
Yeah.
And then the foot squad gets the same reroll hits roll, and then instead of the reroll charges, it gets if damaged, sustained hits 1, and if below half, sustained hits 2. Now, with the update to Fight on Death, where if your unit dies in one shot, every model now activates as if you were at 0 strength, basically. If that squad fights on death, every single model fights with sustained hits 2 and full hit rerolls on Fight on Death.
We
And
get
because
the
of the way
funny
that like
+1 to wound too, right?
+1 to wound as well from the chaplain if it's that squad. If you're not running the chaplain for whatever
Yep.
reason, that guy got epic challenged out, whatever, right? Like there are situations, but generally, yeah, +1 to wound as well. You're just kicking out 30 attacks with full rerolls and sustained hits 2. You're talking like 40 something hits generally. And because of the timing of it being Fight on Death, not a unit targeting you can't use defensive stratagems like armor contempt, -1 damage, anything like that. You just beat them in the skull with your Fight on Death for this just like randomly really obnoxious unit that can go to Rhino.
Yeah,
And as we all know, rhinos are quite good in this edition.
It's very funny to walk up to a Custodes unit with your melta pistols and be like, feel no pain or one of you dies to the saves, like for every failed save. And then they just stare at you and then they don't do it. And then maybe they lose like 3. Or you walk up to them and you're like, fight in death and make this even, or fight first and make this even worse because you can fight on death in reaction to them fighting first. It's real bad for the boys in gold when they play against the Sons of Slamguinius, which is good. It's the great melee revenge against the golden fucks.
You also get just like a bunch of random melta for Catan, which is really
yeah.
Like Catan do not like it when you're just like, so here's 12 melta saves for my 25 dudes, and then I'm going to charge the other one. Did you have a plan for this, or
I'm just going to charge and kill both?
Yeah,
All out king.
What if I just like charge and shoot one, charge and kill another, and your monolith or Saras, or really dealer's choice, just whatever you really feel like killing.
That turn I was talking about earlier, where I killed both those Catan and the monolith, I also got Saras down to like fucking 4 or something.
Which then immediately meant he was back up to like 14, right? But
no, he went back to like fucking 5. I think he only healed 1, and then he like was gonna die the next turn. It was fine.
And then the other units that I heard in your list, at least, Anthony, was Assault Intercessors and Captains.
Yeah, so that package is very inexpensive and gives you a very mean man. So when you pop Finest Hour, that guy has like 9 attacks at 10-2-2 with dev wounds. The lads, the Assault Ints have like the Legionaries rule, basically, where they have rule 1s to wound and then rule all of the targets on an objective or something to that effect.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just a way to get wound rerolls on a guy that hits much harder than he should, and the Sergeant has a Thunderhammer, so between the two of them you get quite a bit of damage. And then the rest of the idiots are like not actually idiots, they're just Corn Berserkers because they have like 4 or 5 attacks at 6-1-1 with often Lance and Lethal for free, which hurts a lot as it turns out.
What else is using your oath at the moment? It might as well be them.
Yeah, it is them, actually, is who it is. And they both conveniently fit inside a funny Land Raider Redeemer box, which on GW terrain, which is what I was playing on, is really good.
Or dealer's choice if you're playing on more terrain, impulsors work just fine.
Yeah, it's probably fine. So yeah, it hits a lot, very hard, often. Oh, also you get like scouts, and I had an infiltrator unit. Playing with infiltrators again was sweet. Having to pretend, like not even pretend to be good at screening was hilarious. Just being like, no, you will actually come in front of me, in fact. Go over there and die. Thank you.
All Predators remain insanely cheap for what they do.
Dude, why do they advance and shoot infantry for free? Who thought that was a good idea?
Advance and shoot infantry, 125 points for what is a toughness 10, 11 wound model with a 3-up save with 3d6 plus 3 flamer shots. Like one of the scariest
flamer is much scarier.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the scariest Overwatches in the game, has a hunter killer because someone's got to use oath.
It was good.
The Land Raider Redeemer also has like both the grenades keyword and the vehicle keyword or something like that, doesn't it? So it gets.
I didn't grenade with it all weekend, but you could.
You could grenade, tank shock, and flamer somebody all in the same turn. It's kind of funny.
I really did not feel like I had CP to grenade in that army very often.
Yeah, no, I was busy. But I was busy like scoring 20s and smashing, so I don't think those are the type of armies that are typically after a grenade,
Fair. And then I mean, and you don't really have a lot of targets that I guess you need to grenade into because you have all of the melta pistols that are all re-rolling hits. So
also normally you just hit them with your face, like your face into their face, and that does enough.
Just run up and headbutt them a few times and then they die and then they're gone.
Yeah, you do it like the champion man from the Night Lords novels, where you headbutt someone to death.
So what are the good and bad matchups then for this army?
Haven't found a bad one yet, but when I do, I'll let you know. And the good matchups are anyone that wants to melee at all. It's really fucked up, honestly.
Cool. So Blood Angels are broken, guys. Heard it here first.
Yo, like, actually, I don't really know what you're supposed to do. Like, you stay far away, you don't score. You get close, you get stabbed. It's not good. I'm
So
sure
very
there's
quickly,
I'm
we
sure
have a
the
look at how
metadata
Olivia.
dashboard can teach us a bunch of things about this, but like from my experience, I don't really know. Probably guard going second is probably not pleasant.
Olivier got a 10 into Death Guard, which seems reasonable. It doesn't seem like an amazing matchup.
It seems like a thing that can happen, especially if you're Olivier and won't leave your deployment zone unless you must.
And then he also got a 10 into Galonka's Swarm Nids list.
That is confusing, but I could see how.
I think the Tyrannifex was a very real problem for him crossing the board.
That makes sense. It's not a super real problem for Lamarte's unit, but like the rest.
Yeah. Lamar's unit might have been busy.
Also, if he goes second and he's stuck like in his deployment zone because of gargoyles, I could see that being bad. Not a
There's
ton
also
of,
like nothing loves Tyranids are not good at killing a lot of things, but Exocrines are really good at killing like 10
Marines.
10
Yeah.
man marine squads of anything.
Yeah.
Like a Feel No Pain is not saving you there.
That also them being flat 3 damage.
No,
is
yeah,
just
you just die to Exocrines.
inconvenient for a Death Company unit,
Yeah.
even with the Feel No Pain.
Bad. It's bad. You
Yeah.
don't want any of that.
You don't want that heat.
Yeah.
He did go first against the Swarm. Apparently, Guard is messed up, which
Guard-
I could see.
Yeah, I could see guard being bad. I live a very different life in a guard because it's just the most wild coin flip, right? We just lock eyes, and one of us goes first, and one of us dies. When I'm playing Eaters, anyway.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see like the fully played out Iron Storm matchup there because I could see that being very messy on both sides.
Yeah, it just sounds like a shit show.
Most Marine Mirrors, like regardless of what you're doing, just sound like a shit show because you're just like, I don't really know what's going on. All my scoring is dead, and I'm hoping I draw cards with my killing units that I can score.
Yep.
That tends to be the Marine Mirror.
And do you prefer this army then on WTC, or would you prefer it on GW, or would you prefer it on both? Just as a like.
Look, the Land Raider Redeemer is okay on GW boards, but if you're playing singles and you don't get board choice, and you're just like randomly slammed onto a WTC board, you might find a little bit of an awkward time on some boards. It definitely wants a little bit of help. Whereas if you're playing on like GW boards, you're probably fine. If you're playing on UKTC boards, don't play a Land Raider. You'll have a miserable time. They suck so much. They get like one prescribed deployment place, and it's very telegraphed.
And then Innes, you said you played a practice match with it today. We heard Anthony's list earlier this episode. What did you play for your list?
Yeah, so I took the version and I basically trimmed the Land Raider out, put in double impulsors for the assault intercessors, and then like an extra regular predator just for a bit of long range damage output. It felt very solid. Just did its job, ran out of guard army. The guard army shot, slightly overwhelmed it, but it was very much like an in the balance game. Ingressing the Death Company squad to die because I was just like, it just needs to die, but nothing else gets shot. And just to give me time was a weird choice, but it worked out just about for like an 11-9. It was weird, but messy. Good game though. Really interesting. It really was quite fun to play. It's not like I was playing it and I was definitely like, I really wish I was just shooting my opponent right now. This whole like crossing the board into 4 indirect platforms, not the most pleasant thing in the world. But it worked out pretty well. I've been playing a bunch of different Marine builds recently, like Gladius Space Wolves and Iron Storm stuff and like different variations of that, and just adding Blood Angels to the toolkit. Like Marines are so you can build whatever you want on Marines right now. They're just so good. They're so well positioned.
Why don't we extrapolate on that a little bit? Because we when we were talking about the stats, like we're talking about generic Marines mostly being the worst Marine out there. Are you talking about just basically non-Codex compliant Marines then when you're talking about them being well positioned?
I mean, Codex compliant Marines includes Vanguard Ultramarines, which I think are fine. Like, I don't think it's the best Marine build anymore. And debatably, it only ever was if you were John Lennon. But it's definitely like still within the region of you could win a super major with that, and I don't think anybody would complain about it. But like you have Black Templars Gladius, Black Templars Righteous Crusaders, Black Templars Ironstorm, Dark Angels Ironstorm, Blood Angels Sons of Sanguinius, Gladius Space Wolves, Vanguard Ultramarines, like all 7 of those builds. I'm like, you could very easily. You are definitely within capability of winning any tournament you went to with any of those builds.
I'm pretty sure you could make an 8 out of Marine builds right now for teams.
Yeah, probably. You'd probably like if you split it by chapters, you might struggle because you couldn't have 3 Templars lists. But
Oh, I just meant like go forth and
yeah,
conquer.
for sure.
You can make 8 vaguely different Marine lists.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you would be like you wouldn't have Death Watch, but that'd be fine.
Yeah,
And then I guess one of the things that I also wanted to talk about, since we're on Marines and Marine tactics, essentially, is what do you think of the double Storm Ravens list that Kit Hannah put out?
I think it's really good as long as you don't play, as long as you play
Does
with
it
the
change
old book.
now with the Dark Angels kind of like?
It definitely so for anybody who's not aware, the Double Storm Raven list is basically it plays Dark Angels to get access to Azrael and a Talon Master. Azrael gives you the CP that you kind of need to function, and and also the Dark Shroud. The Dark Shroud kicks out an aura of stealth and cover, which just Storm Ravens are very, very reasonable defensively into a lot of things, and stealth and cover just pushes them to the point where things that aren't specialized just don't kill them. You add an Adept to the Omnicide to blank a save, change the damage to 0, and you're looking at like a toughness 10, 14 wound model, 3-up save with stealth and cover with -1 damage. One of them can blank a save once per battle round, and it just unless you have a very hyper specialized profile, you need like a single Lancer is never going to win that fight because you're just not going to put enough volume through. You need like multiple like high profile like good damage things that can consistently deliver hits to them, and there's just not a lot of things like that. When they go down hard, but they're very good at pushing very aggressively. They're very good defensively. And then Azrael and the Dark Shroud fuel for CP into that, and then the Talon Master buffs the damage output because it's a fast model that can hold whatever aura you please, generally the advanced shoot and fall back and shoot aura for Ironstorm, and also kicks out ignore cover. And with 48 Hurricane Bolter shots a turn, ignore cover is really valuable. And losing that when the Dark Angels Codex comes out and the Talon Master data sheet disappears into the ether with Chaplain Dreadnoughts, and we all rejoiced. It definitely suffers a lot, and it takes a big hit from that. I think the list will still be fine. It just a few of its matchups get a little bit worse. You trade out for like another Tech Marine and some slightly upgraded scoring. The floor comes up, the ceiling comes down a little bit. It probably pushes towards a little bit more of a little bit more binary. You might like I think single Storm Raven stays fine with the changes. Double Storm Raven might be a touch too far, or it might just be fine. Like it's still a very like the core competencies of the list are. It's really hard to push. It has really good ranged output. The Hurricane Bolters are not all of the damage output. They're definitely a good portion of it, but it'll still work. And people like Kit has been putting in like a ton of effort on it. He went 5-1 at LVO with it. He just won a super major a major with it this weekend. Like the guy's been putting in the work with it, and he knows what he's doing with it. And it's a very, very difficult list to play against.
So really, the only thing that changes about that list, although it's not insignificant because you just talked about it, is that Talon Masters are going to Legends with the new Codex release.
Exactly, and then I think technically Azrael can't currently join Company Heroes again, which for some variations of that build can be a little annoying. Because Company Heroes are one of the better things to lead, but you can just chuck him in like an intercessor squad and get some sticky objective, and you'll be fine. It's not that big a deal. Or run him solo. Frankly, he's fine solo.
Okay. And then Anthony Ayers' comment here is just funny, so I'm going to read it, which is Anthony Hadar is embarrassingly excited for your time together in the Netherlands. Can you reply to him?
I don't have
meaning it isn't needed.
from him. I'm super fucking excited to hang out with Hadar. I love that guy.
To transition to like non 40k talk for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just always amused by ISK 1500, which is probably like $5, but it always makes me happy.
Dude, fuck if I know. Every time I bought anything in Iceland, I was like, wee, who knows?
ISK definitely just makes me think of like cyberpunk money.
That's how it feels.
All right, what else then do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk very briefly about Astra Militarum and why the whole community is wrong about it and why it's good real quick?
No, go and listen to the Farside episode. I assume Dave like just lambasted the entire community for sucking.
I also genuinely don't think that we should like label the complaints of like 6 people on Reddit as the whole community thinking Guard's bad. Like I really don't think that's what's happening, and I really don't want those fucks to win. Like that's not real. No one I don't think that many people actually think Guard is bad. I think it's just like 6 dudes who want to play with 10 Russes only and win every game and are lying to themselves about how often they want to win. And I don't think those people should get to control the narrative because fuck those guys.
No, like David Gaylord should get to control the narrative. He is the Guard player of all time.
Yeah.
True. I also think that if you want that summary, like Inna said, you should go watch this week's Fireside episode. because I'm just assuming that Vic and David are going to talk about their experience at that Super Major this
And
last
probably
weekend.
trash on Imperial Night players a bunch as well, because that's just kind of what they do on that show.
Yeah,
It's true. That's like Vic's like one axe that he wants to grind forever.
And he's so right.
All right. Innes, do you want to do the plugs and then we can transition into something else?
Yeah, let's do the plug, because this is apparently I did them okay on Pyra or on the Pyra show, so I'm gonna, as best I can, do this terribly. I don't have a list. Jeremy wrote a list and I don't know where he put it, but I don't think he put it anywhere I can access it. So
It's probably in YouTube resources in our
It's
Discord. You know that it's not there. That's funny.
it's just in the description of our last
that's the
video.
description. I'm gonna run the description. That'll do. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us so far on the show. We are 45 minutes in. Presumably, you're enjoying the show at this point. So if you could do a couple of things to support us, that would be wonderfully helpful. If you're on the YouTube or you're watching on any of the podcast platforms or anything like that, chuck us a like, comment, subscription, any of the good stuff, all the interaction-y things. It really helps us out. Apparently, I haven't done the data on this, but apparently just saying to do that increases it by like 30 to 50% for most people. So frankly, we'd be stupid not to, even if it doesn't annoy you. So we're going to continue doing it because Jeremy told me to. Let's go with that. Jeremy did not at all tell me to. If you want to support us a little more, you can check out patreon.com/statcheck for $5 a month or more if you want to get a crisp high five from Anthony at any given tournament or have your name read out in the credits at the end. You can chuck us a couple dollars, get access to our Patreon Discord. There's a bunch of wonderful things going on in there. We are running Miniature Opportunity Golf, which is run by one of our moderators, which is if you paint a model, buy a model, you can you basically get like a golf score. So buying a model adds 1 to your score, painting a model takes 1 off. But if you get through your backlog, you can go negative, and the person who is the most negative at the end of a given quarter, I believe, is currently getting a prize. We also have the Vibe Check League, which will be starting up on the 9th, whatever this Monday is coming. So the 11th, based on my calendar in the corner.
I was going to say it's the 11th with lists due on the 10th.
There you go. Thanks. I knew somebody would know. You can add gas to the Vibe Check League. There's like 70 people signed up for our tournament. We have a big chunk of prizes provided by our sponsor, Red Dragon. If you would like to be involved in that, please do check out patreon.com/statcheck. Otherwise, youtube.com/statcheck. You can see all the other shows on the network, such as End of the Matrix, Take All Comers, and XM1, as well as ourselves, live at various times throughout the week, doing all sorts of wonderful things on 40K. We just recently had the Pirate episode for End of the Matrix, where myself, Anthony, and Pumbaa and Typhus, and a little bit less Anthony than everybody else, went through the Pirate Cup, talked about our experiences, the list that we took, all kind of things. If you're interested in hearing about team events at the top end and you really want to know like what's going on in the team event meta, which is a little bit different and very diversified from the singles meta right now, go and check it out. It's super cool. End of the Matrix is personally my favorite 40K con on the internet, but I can't love StatCheck the most because frankly it's here. There you go. The prize is a crisp virtual high five for golf. But if you enter, you enter into a raffle for Red Dragon cash. So thank you very much to Grant for running that. He is a wonderful human being. And it's a super cool thing to just like give you some motivation to do your painting. If you'd like to check out our sponsors, you can check out red-dragon.ca for Red Dragon. They have all things Warhammer and variously hobby related. There is a Patreon code for 20% off of the entire store if you're joined up with Patreon. You can check out our sponsor Saltar Games and use code StatCheck15 at etsy.co.uk/Saltar Games or whatever the code is for Etsy. Just search Saltar Games, it'll be easier. StatCheck15 will get you 15% off there. They do tokens, gauges, all that kind of thing for just having a bit of an easier time playing Warhammer. And you can check out Will and Jutani, who are the terrain sponsors for WTC. Using code StatCheck5 will get you 5% off and give us a bit of a kickback. If you want to play on the terrain that is used at WTC, it's the flat pack reassembly stuff that you can fit like 3 tables in a box that you can carry like this and chuck in the back of your car if you're going to an event at a friend's house or whatever. Super helpful stuff, really good to play with. So do check that out. Lastly, if you're interested in any coaching from us, please do check out stat-check.com/coaching. Myself, Jeremy, and Typhus are all currently offering coaching. If you're interested in improving yourself at any level of Warhammer, you've got a tournament coming up, you just want to prep for your next big team event, or you're just interested in improving in general, check it out. We have all the prices and all that on the website at stat-check.com/coaching, or drop us an email at coaching@stat-check.com. I think that's all the plugs.
Community Spotlight.
Community Spotlight. Jeremy, you know more about that one than me, so you get to do that one.
So we are going to start doing a community spotlight soon. So we're going to take hobby posts from the Discord, and then provided that the person who posted it, we are going to spotlight it on the show. So we'll be sharing some visual content and maybe force Innes to describe it with words. I don't know.
That's going to go badly.
Yes. Just trying to spotlight some of the amazing hobby work that's been done, some of the amazing work just generally that's been done that's part of our Discord. Trying to celebrate our Discord members just a little bit more, which you'll see at the end of this episode as well when I butcher some of the Chris Pie 5 tier people's names.
Well, this is gonna suck. Finally, we have
Um,
a segment where Nathan sucks, not just me.
It's true. Yeah, for people who have joined our Patreon, we have re-updated the $15 per month tier, which is now a Chris Pie 5, where you get various in-person bonuses from us, including a Chris Pie 5 from any of us at an event that we're at with you.
I think specifically Anthony offered the Chris High Five. Pumbaa and
Nope.
Typhus offered you a gentle kiss on the cheek. I offered to not kiss you on the cheek. That's my promise.
Technically, I roped you all into giving Chris Pie
We
5,
all want to do the Chris
unfortunately.
High Five.
Yeah, we
Okay.
all have to do
You
the Chris Pie
Wash
5.
your hands. That's a requirement.
Yes, please don't do the please wash, sanitize hands first. We don't want sicknesses spreading. Please no.
Unless you're a
All
Death
right.
Guard player, in which case spread all the sickness you like.
But not to us.
That's true.
All right, we're gonna maneuver our way onto show questions because we're gonna be semi-organized this week, I guess. Although the sad thing is that Jeremy was doing all of the show question copy and pasting.
I can do that. That's not...
But the way that you get your questions asked and answered by us on the show is either to join the Patreon and then go ask your question in the main show questions thread. If you ask it outside of the main show questions thread, the chances of it getting answered are based on how nice I feel today. Otherwise, if you super chat, we will also answer your question. Although I featured the two of them already because that was kind of fun. I'll feature them again because it's also amusing, although we won't require any answers at this time.
All right. So the first question is from Derek, who asks, do guard need nerfs? And I will chuck that up on the screen.
Followed by a angel holding its hands emoji, which I assume means please don't nerf me. Please don't nerf me at all.
I think indirect needs a nerf, and like maybe the reinforcement strat, but
I think that you probably shouldn't be able to res units more than once, right?
That seems reasonable. Anthony, apparently people want...
I need to go up like another 50 points.
I think they just need to remove the indirect keyword. Just pull it out of the game.
Just from all data sheets.
Yeah, just remove the keyword. Just bloop,
yeah,
gone.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think Kazakin are maybe a little pushed. Bulgrin maybe don't need -1 damage and a 6 of Feel No Pain, but you could probably chuck like 5 points on each model or like 10 points on that squad and be fine. Like they're good, not broken. Like guard are just kind of like a pile of efficiencies backed up by indirect. Like if you trim like a little bit off of like the 3 most busted things, guard are just fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you want to paste the questions, I'm
doing it. That's literally what I'm doing.
Okay.
So please just we're good.
I know. I'm just saying.
Cool. Logan asks, with such an abysmal win rate, what buffs do guard need?
That is a fantastic combination of questions.
I would love if Lehman Russes could just be more centralized in that book, but they won't be because that's fine, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not going back to being unpower level pointed so that everybody just pays for having multi-melt sponsons at this point, essentially. And asking for them to unnerf guard by just making that happen as a lever of balance instead of the way that it currently is with fancy power level is probably just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, guard had this last edition as well, right? Unlike Kid and Shock Troopers, they were just 65 points flat, so they were definitely the heralds of the change.
Reasonable.
All right. Next up, we have what 40k faction best represents the Fedaykin? Who's seen Dune?
I haven't seen the movie, but I read the book. I saw the first part. I haven't seen the second part yet.
Okay, we're not going to talk about Dune.
We probably shouldn't do that. Yeah.
I mean,
we were going to talk about it anyway, but
I mean, the Fedaykin is just the warriors of the Fremen, essentially. So we can Gene Stealer cult is correct. That's what I was actually going to say. So thank you to Nick Herding for agreeing with me and clever invective as well.
Okay. Yeah. There are then like 3 more Dune questions after that I am going to skip.
Fair.
Yeah, they're just all Paul. We're just going to say Gene Stealer cult for all of them. That's just your answer. Gene Stealer cult.
David Gaylord is definitely the least Al Gaib of guard players.
It's true.
He also might be the Shai Hulud of guard players.
I heard the music of the little clips I've seen of people riding like little sandworms around, like little motorized scooter sandworms, and it makes me really amused.
Okay. Demons 57% win rate, multiple top fours, fluke or legit.
Oh, sick. We did get a question about this. Nice.
Go on, Anthony.
So, so demons are the exact same as early 10th IK, where if you are good, you will not lose to them. If you play less than 10 games a month, you're about to get your shit rocked. And that is the ride. Welcome to an army full of big, giant, stupid monsters that are tougher than they should be and cheaper than they ought to be. They definitely can scam you if you're not super familiar with the game mechanics, and that will lead to lots of that, basically. Some of this assuredly is armies that I play. Like, I cannot imagine a combination of game scenarios that lead to the armies that I play losing to demons. Now, technically, is it possible? Probably, but I have no idea how badly I'd have to fuck that up in order for that to happen. I talked to Lennon about this a little bit earlier today. We came to basically the same conclusion that demons are exactly good enough to be annoying to play against. Because they're just like doing a whole bunch of stuff that requires a bunch of effort from you so that they can lose 100 to 40. It's really annoying. But yeah, I wish they were better. I wish they were more well designed.
Just lose to a 3-inch deep strike stratagem.
What'd you say?
Some people just lose to a 3-inch deep strike stratagem.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yep. Some people just flat out, they just lose to it.
Yeah. So like those models can be not where they are right now in a minute. Fuck. Loss. Like, that's a thing that happens. So yeah, it's the same thing as IK. It's literally the exact same. Like, big monster, scary, lose. Like, that's it. That's exactly what's going on. But if you like a big boy time stat check, you should play a different army. Demons still suck. Don't do that.
Okay. That one guy, John, asks, how do you try and assess the data from low participation factions from GW's perspective? Like, how should GW try and take the limited data to make informed, balanced decisions?
They should do what they already do, which is not use that data at all to make their balanced decisions, as we can see by their efforts with Eldar and Necrons. Sorry, go ahead, Nathan. You should give them a real answer.
Fine. So there are currently only 3 factions under 2% meta representation, based on 4 weeks of data. And what you have to do with low representation factions is you need to know why they're low representation. You have to understand and look into why those factions aren't represented in the meta. There's only one faction with 4 weeks of data that's under 1%, and that's Deathwatch, who's only had 13 players. So you need to look at why did Deathwatch only have 13 players? Like, what are the community's complaints in those situations? So you have to go from a data-driven to a more subjectively driven way of looking at it. So you have to go to the community and kind of figure it out. Like, there's a limit to how much data can take you, like how far that can take you. And sometimes you have to use non-quant perspectives in order to get information about why your quant perspective isn't working correctly. And that's just the way things work. Like, you have to go and just do interviews and talk to the community and see what the problem is that informs why there's no data about this situation. I don't know that GW does all those things. Like, if you're looking at those things, you just have to do more work. I mean, otherwise, the only 2 factions under 2% meta representation with 42 and 51 players are Gene Stealer Colts and Adeptus Mechanicus. And sometimes you just have to look at the data in aggregate, where you have to take multiple weeks of data to kind of collect together to get that. And what GW probably should do is hire a fucking statistician, or somebody who works in the social sciences and does quant work in order as part of their job, because that's the kind of person who's equipped with dealing both with the quant workup that you have to do, as well as the more subject oriented work that you have to do in order to do interviews, collect data that's more narrative focused. And then you need that person to come together to do both of those things. So you should hire a social sciences PhD to do that work for you. There you go. There's my answer to that question, which was probably longer and more detailed than people wanted.
Side note, stop grouping together all the Marine factions. I don't like this. All Marines are the same faction, and everybody should stop pretending they're different.
Look, people got really mad at me when I started saying that, and they just got real upsetty in their spaghettis about it. And
Space Wolves and
I
Deathwatch
got
are the same army, and people need to stop.
overruled by the two other statistics people that we work with, Cliff and Jeremy. So if you guys want me to no longer have all of them squished together, you need to convince Jeremy and Cliff
Like we should
that my
at least
my
have
way
the
of being in
aggregate
the world
space
is
restats
correct.
in the data somewhere.
I do have it. We have it. They collect it because I'm spiteful and ask them to.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it's entirely fair to pretend that because you own a Space Wolves army, you can pivot and play the Blood Angels components. That's not real.
Sure.
Yeah, you should be able to. Don't be a bitch.
But, like, that costs money and has other limitations, right? And I say that as, like, a deeply privileged man.
That's fair. Right.
And also to answer Nick's statement, so what I'm saying is if no guy play faction is bad, that's not 100% what I'm saying.
But it is often
Thing is-
true.
But that's often true. Some factions are just very prohibitive to play, and there are
Shout
other
out to the last
reasons why
edition of
people don't
Harlequins.
play them as much. Yeah, like
Oh.
Harlequins, until people figured out that you could use an airbrush to 3-color spray a Harlequins army so that it looked acceptable, was a thing that you could do.
Day 2.
Most people were, day 2. It took 2 days for them to figure it out, but 10 years prior to that or whatever.
Oh,
Okay, Anthony,
man.
you can take this one. So we are a fair way into the edition now. How do you all feel about power level style points?
I fucking hate this shit, but, like, I hate this with such an intensity that it's, like, looped back around to apathy. I'm just like, whatever, man. I put my list in, I, like, plug in the units in and out until they, like, say the right number at the bottom, and then I give up. Like, I just don't engage with inventive list writing, just, like, even a little anymore. I get to a list that, like, even almost works, and I'm like, nailed it! Off we go! I just don't care. It's not, like, an enjoyable part of the game to me anymore. It just is, like, a thing that I must do before I go to an event. I have to make sure that the tiny box at the bottom of my GW app is green and not yellow.
I think the only thing that I hate about this is that they removed a lever of balance that was really important to previous editions. And like there were probably situations in lists where this was fine. Like for a lot of battle line units, it's probably fine that like a Space Marine tactical squad gets a free heavy weapon and a free assault weapon. Like whatever. Like I don't care. That stuff's probably fine. But there's other situations where like those things actually mattered more to balance, like the fact that that 10 Death Company squad can take 10 Power Fists and 10 Inferno Pistols
It's so
in their
stupid.
base cost is a little silly, and that's probably a lever of balance that should be able to be pulled in those situations, and they've removed the ability to pull it. So I'm still of the opinion that it's a little foolish, and you've just made power level more complicated.
I mean, that day she's just going into Legends when the book comes out, but like,
Oh, whoa!
I don't think the Death
Whoa!
Company is going to be. I don't think Death Company, the signature unit aside
Company
from
Intercessors already
Sanguinary
existed.
Guard. I mean, that might happen. That's true. That's
Dude,
she's
true.
gonna get
That
a Death
actually
Company
might happen.
Intercessor upgrade sprue, and that's gonna be it.
Just give them jump packs. It's fine if they get jump packs.
Yeah, for me, like I kind of get what Anthony's saying. Like I still enjoy list building in this edition. Like there's still a decent amount you can do. The only thing, like genuinely, the only thing I don't like is that I can't run a 5 model squad of a 2x3 unit. Like why can I not just run 5 Blade Guard and just only pay for 5? That's the only situation where I don't like the change. Other than that, I just don't care. But I so badly want to be able to run like 5 dudes in a character. They go in a 6 transport vehicle, and you just can't. And it's the only situation that it bugs me. But it really bugs me that one situation.
I mean,
Everywhere
just
else,
like
I'm
no
like,
ability to tune squad sizes up or down into like a reasonable fashion drives me insane.
I don't mind like not being able to do like 3x7 and shit like that. Like it was always kind of weird, but
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Me.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just
like a few
it's-
situations, but
It's just a
generally,
part of the game I don't engage with now. I play like tiny factions with small ranges, and I'm like, good enough when I get to something that works.
and
Nikki
that's
D.
fair.
Williams is also correct. The DC Intercessor Upgrades Brew does already exist.
DC Assault Intercessors Brew. They're gonna release that and then kill the Codex.
Okay.
Kill the Codex, sure.
Yeah,
Kill them
fuck
in the
it.
Codex.
Go to the next question, Dennis.
Right. What's a project in your backlog that you're excited to get to / next on the agenda? Anthony, you can skip this one.
That's not true. Flesh Eater Quartz.
Nice. There you go. Oh yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
that. You're painting it and assembling it yourself.
What's up? Let's not get carried away. I'm not assembling it, but I am gonna paint it.
To be fair, there are plenty of people at this point who I know who are like paying other people to assemble their minis. Mostly their kids.
Fuck assembling.
I have several projects on my desk at this point that I'm working, kind of cycling through. One of them is the World Eaters project, one of them is a Custodes project, and one of them is an unnamed project that I'll never talk about ever again. I'm just kidding. It's D&D minis that I'm painting.
I really will finish building the Eldar models that Dan got me at some point. They're so fiddly.
And then hi, Jeremy in chat. We see you there.
Hi, Jeremy. We see you. I should really finish painting my 800 points of Legion at some point as well, because I really didn't enjoy painting those. But my as I've said before, my painting station is in the garage, and I just from very broadly October to March just don't paint models unless it's for a tournament because it's too cold. So next month I'll start painting again.
What's too cold in us?
Anything below 12 Celsius during the day. And it's also the light in the garage isn't that great, and I refuse to invest in a better bulb. So I need the daylight to last long enough as well. So there's a very fine window of the weather is warm and it's sunny in Scotland that I can paint in, and that's my limit. So
3
really
days
it's a miracle I have anything painted.
I was going to say 3 days a year where it's sunny and warm in Scotland.
Pretty much, yeah.
Awesome.
Salami Dave asks, is Anthony allowed to move Skype move shy allude? That's not a real question. But
it's probably because of the pack cam.
Yep. In the pack for Vibe League, it does say that Anthony's and Vikas can't scout.
It does. It does say that, actually. Which is good, because Anthony's not playing, but that's fucking fair enough. You got me anyway.
Okay. What do you think of Votann in the current meta? And Jeremy, have you given up on them, or did you just want to change? Jeremy's not here, but I'm going to just say Jeremy gave up on them when he saw how good his Sisters winner could be, and now he's playing Sisters.
Christ,
because Jeremy is a bandwagon.
That army is boring.
Sisters or Votann?
Yeah, Votann. Nah, Sisters are cool. Sisters played by a good pile. It's actually super fun to watch because they do the 85 bag of tricks nonsense to make things happen. And it can be definitely a little tilting to play against, but it is very cool to watch it go down.
Yeah. From having spoken to a bunch of Votann players recently, Votann have the very big I am not a fair army, but I do fair things energy, where they have some weird stuff that's janky and messy, but at the end of the day they're in front of you shooting you, and they have an ingress play, and the bikes can teleport, and that's it. And if you have a plan to deal with that, or it doesn't work, there is no comeback mechanic. You just do your thing, and it works or it doesn't. And in a meta where we have Custodes, Sisters, Necrons that are all just bounce off my 4-ups, or Blood Angels charging you from behind walls, Ironstorm shooting, there's just slightly too much. I'm an unfair army that does unfair things instead of an unfair army that does fair things. That if you don't snowball very quickly, and Votann are quite vulnerable to not snowballing quickly, even with the turn 1 scout moves and that they just, once you get behind with Votann, there's no real recovery. You just stay behind, and that just doesn't make a compelling tournament winning army. They're still quite good. They're very capable of beating almost anything. They have a lot of punch up potential. The turn 1 is very scary. It's soft World Eaters but shooting based. If you don't have a good game plan for 12 to 15 bikes and 5 sectors are scouting at you, and you just lose to that, then you're gonna have a crap time playing.
You're gonna lose to it.
You're just gonna lose to it. Yeah. But if you have a real plan for it, Votann are then they're an ingress army at best, and there's a lot of ingress armies out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
What percentage of people that use Giga Big Wing models on circle bases actually measure for turning the model?
I think this can be said for people who have all sorts of things that are just big models, and how many people measure the pivots.
On average, one in 50 people measure appropriately when playing 40K.
Yeah, I don't think anybody measures pivots correctly, just to be totally honest. But I think in order to measure pivots correctly, you'd have to do a bunch of math. And I don't think people are willing.
I am firmly in that camp. I will often move if it's even vaguely complicated, I'll just get a judge, or I'll be like, yo, does this look real to my opponent? Because I just
exclusively move in straight lines, no pivots, only.
I'm also out here fighting short guy struggles of parallax. When I look at a table, I am not looking at it top down almost ever. So I am.
Anthony can measure
doing
your
my
3
best.
HQ frick in his deployment zone, and that's it. From
Yeah,
top down.
yeah, exactly. Like,
To be fair, Anthony, plates have got to have been like the biggest invention in the world for you, right? Because you
oh,
can see
dude,
what's going on now.
dude, it's the best. I know when people are in or out of terrain. At the start of every command phase, I have to go around to the other side of the table to see what my opponent sees. Like, I'm like, what's going on in here? It's rough, bro.
Somebody's gonna
living.
bring you somebody's bringing you a footstool or something.
No, I just need like
to the
mini
next
stilt,
event.
like a good
Yeah.
foot long stilt.
Anthony's playing
Maybe-
40k like it's Dark Tide, and Liam's playing TTS.
Yo, that's real. I'm playing first person. I'm in there with the guardsmen. That's why I don't play guard. It's scary down there, son.
The next tallest dust prize should be a fancy step stool for Anthony.
Oh, that would be
Definitely.
fun. If I could go, that'd be great.
All right. Go to the next question before I die.
Here. What are your views on hordes in the current meta, and which non-Tyranid factions do it well?
None. Next.
Tyranids are good in teams. Next question. Like horde, just kind of, if you don't protect it with pairings, you are just going to play against Billy Name with his 18 aggressors and just get blown out, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I love.
Sorry,
Innes has had the same example for this being a thing for like the entire time that I've known him. Anytime anyone asks him about hordes, he's like, "Bro, fucking Billy's gonna show up to that event with his 18 aggressors that he got out of the box, and he's gonna fuck you up." It's always
right.
the same.
And the problem is that example's been true since Dark Imperium, because it just is. You drop a game and you're playing in the bracket with the other Exxon ones. Like, there could be anything out there. You don't know the horrors of that bracket if you're a top level player. You drop down to that bracket, you could, like, that guy's got 18 Thunderwolves. Why has he got 18 Thunderwolves?
Yeah,
you're going to wolf jail.
Yeah, wolf jail, dude.
Just ask Nas how that experience works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ayer asks a joke question that I'm not going to post.
How do you? Why?
Because he's not asking how you analyze things. He's asking it in two separate words for a reason.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought that was a typo, actually.
No, it was not. What list have you either played or seen do well this weekend that seems interesting, both for your faction or a faction you currently don't play?
I think all the Blood Angels lists are interesting, to be totally honest. Every time I see somebody play one of those, I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah, Suns being question mark the best army in the game has been an interesting development.
Explain.
Like, I think that there's a real world where Sons of Sanguinius.
Well, Sons of Sanguinius. I heard that. I still, to like everybody else, you say Sons, I hear Thousand Sons.
I think Thousand Sons are really strong, but I don't. Best army in the game is not something I would even almost say.
No, that was why I was confused.
Yeah. No. Sons of Sanguinius.
Sons of Sanguinius genuinely slam. Give them a try if you haven't
I
already.
think you could probably play like that list as like whatever though. Like, it doesn't. It could be Vanguard. It could be like. Probably not Vanguard, but like anything with like a vaguely melee adjacent stratagem that it can use would be
Gladius or Sons. Yeah,
you probably played as the funky Dark Angels one if you could.
Yeah,
we talk
play a Storm Lance. I promise the Lance strat that only works on Mountain is going to be great for your Death Company.
Good enough.
Can we talk very briefly, because this is something we didn't talk about, the play pattern of that Blood Angels list, just because we're here?
Yeah, you put 3 like boxes up that don't cost as much as they should that have horrifying flamers stapled to them. If your opponents come out, their trash dies. If they commit real units, it dies the following turn to your real units. You start usually Lamarte's and the Death Company up in the sky, and then they come down out of a scary rapid ingress. And if your opponent tries to charge you, you fuck up their charge phase with the Sanguinor and fight in death. It's a lot of like holding melta pistols at people, daring them to use defensive buffs so they don't have them for the fight phase, and then they don't use them in the shooting phase and die to melta pistols.
There we go.
And things in boxes is really good this edition.
Yeah, things in box is good.
It was probably really good last edition. We all just sucked as well.
I think it was good. Like, I meant like BA. I think has probably been good this whole time. It just wasn't wild, which is what you needed to be early. And
yeah, I mean, imagine trying to play this into Old Phantasm. You're just like, I caught your Wraith Knight. Hold on.
And like, in fairness, the Spanish Blood Angels player destroyed nerds at WTC. Like, there was builds that worked, Those data sheets have been good this entire time.
Yeah,
It's
Nosh and I
just-
did play Ball Predators and Death Company in Ironstorm. Like,
And those were the good parts of that
they
list.
were
Just
the good
ignore
parts
the
of that
rest.
list. Not in the Whirlwinds. Whirlwinds were messed up. But yes, Death Company have been really good for like the entire edition. Okay, opinions on clear bases for minis.
That sounds weird. I don't like that at all. That makes me uncomfortable.
I feel like some people would balk at them being unpainted, but I prefer the look of my minis being where they are and not carrying a few cubic feet of margin sand around with them.
No.
You do you,
It's
bro.
fine.
I really don't
Like
mind.
whatever.
No,
Yeah, it's an
I'm
aesthetic
saying
choice.
no. What the fuck? That's so weird. No.
Anthony, how dare you have hobby standards?
Yeah, I do. For this. Only this.
Nothing else, just this.
Look, Anthony morally hates flight stands.
Yeah, that's true.
It's funny because I paint my flight stands.
Yeah,
They're
all
painted
my
black,
Drukari's flight stands
basically.
are painted.
Fair enough.
My Drukari vehicles
mind
are
it.
on the Magnet Baron bases.
If
so
you
they're
think it
on
looks
actual
better,
bases.
you do what you enjoy. Don't let anybody else yuck your yum.
Don't do clear bases though.
Is guard hard to play, or are guard players just actually that bad? Asks Derek.
Guard's not easy to play very well. Guard is easy to play functionally. Like anyone can pull the lever and shoot the indirect guns, right? It's the other like rest of it that can be tough.
You can mess it up. I think you can mess up your indirect target priority pretty easily as well if you're not careful.
No.
You have a lot of moving parts, like any army that has a bunch of stuff that you have to like put into place to stop yourself getting overrun. Like guard is very much I'm going to shoot you from my castle, and also here's all my stuff to defend the castle, and you have to put the right things in the right places, and that does have a decent skill gap. And if you don't run that stuff, you'll just get battered. So if you build your guard list wrong, you'll just lose.
Also, guard
And
when it goes bad goes real bad.
And sometimes you move your screen incorrectly, and a whole ass Avatar Arcane ends up in your deployment zone, and you're real sad.
Yeah, that's not good either. You're gonna want to avoid that where possible.
I definitely have not done that.
It doesn't sound like it was an experience-based story.
No, not even once.
If you had to be a night pilot, which one would you want?
Chaos.
I want to pilot the Porphyrion with the giant lasers on either side. That's what I want to pilot. The Acastus Knight.
I would like to pilot a Helverin because it sits at the back of the board and hopefully doesn't die. And that's mostly what I'm operating on the axis of.
Carnivore.
I thought we were talking about lore, so I just wanted to sit at the back with the giant death machine.
Yeah, that's fine too. But I bet that like those knights like eat your brain or something like that. Like they like dissolve you. So I'm cool with the Helverin. Like that looks like a single dude could pilot and like be fine. The Porphyrion is like you're wired in or something. Like you're like plugged into that. I'm not about that.
Oh no, that's what I want. Let me see as if the Porphyrion's eyes are mine.
Yep, I'm here for it. As long as I'm gonna be in the 40K like setting, I want to be in like a position of like fancy fun times.
Yeah.
Spawn or cult? Spawn or servitor?
Spawn.
I'll take servitor.
Actually, servitor is probably better. But fuck it.
Like spawn is better because the one time you get the perspective of a spawn, the whole time the guy is thinking that he's like at a feast and he's like fighting, having a revelry. That sounds okay. I feel like if you're still like in some way cognizant of your servitordom, you're just cognizant and have no control over your body as it does a repetitive task forever.
I mean, that's a bit like now, right? Anyway.
Jesus, Anthony.
Thank you for talking about the cogs of capitalism for us there at the end. Ooh, cogs of capitalism. That's a good one, actually. I like that.
If Gabe was a loyalist night pilot, what would his night be?
It's a giant pig. It's a huge pig.
It's a
Which
gallon.
one's Gabe again? I can't remember.
Gabe's the hogmaster, the boy.
Gabe is
that's right.
Boy. Okay, there's another question about piloting knights that I'm just not answering. That we're just not doing. Sorry, Grant. Ben asks, what is the best way or form to eat a potato?
There's this really cool way where you shave potatoes really thin and then compress them and then fry them. That makes like the ultimate fried potato. That is my favorite way of eating a potato.
I like when they're disrespectful into me with their matrix in teams, specifically events in Poland.
Jesus, dude. I am a big fan of the chip, and I will stand by the chip as the ultimate expression of potato. Although I think I prefer mashed potatoes. So yeah, I feel like that's maybe not a true statement. Mashed potatoes are the best.
Mashed potatoes with steak specifically is the
good
pinnacle.
Good yes.
Yeah. A good gravy with a mashed potato is the best mashed potato.
Ruined it.
Okay. Eric has a bunch of questions, so let's put all three up at the same time because I'm lazy. Should I play the Ironstorm Dark Angel thing or Sisters for my next tournament?
I like that the Ironstorm Dark Angel list doesn't get to be like a list or an army. Everyone always refers to it as like the jank, the mess, the disaster, the weird thing. It's just got a plane in it, so everyone's like, ugh, gross. Which,
Ugh.
fair, true.
Planes.
But yeah.
Anthony almost vomited when I said I might take one to Eurotrash. So
I immediately stopped him. It's real life. There's like a story in a screenshot of 3 messages between the 3 of us.
Okay. You should take the Sisters list, though.
You should play Ironstorm Raven. It's way fun. You should play. I think we're calling it Lionstorm.
Lionstorm's a dope name, though. That's fair.
There's no lion in it.
That doesn't matter.
The closest you have Azrael. That's the closest you're getting.
Yeah,
it matters to me. Just take the lion in that list and be done with it.
You should play Lionstorm because the name is dope, and you should call it Lionstorm. What should Sisters do to Custodes? Shoot them and hit them. You're like 10-ish into them. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, you get to do a lot of like, go ahead and fight first into these 2 guys as sisters, which is funny.
Go ahead and fight first as my Palatine beats you across the skull and Vault ingresses on your home objective.
Yeah.
Can you go over how Storm Ravens and other big weird flyers move and measure? So if you put them in flight mode, they measure from the base. They go in a straight line of up to infinity inches, a minimum 20, and they pivot once at the end of their move. And they get move blocked a bunch, but they see over terrain. And if you put them in hover mode, they are movement 20 and they measure like everything else. They measure up and down terrain, they measure diagonally and all that good stuff, and they see with normal obscuring rules. If you're playing on WTC boards, they cannot overhang a ruin at any point, so they're miserable to play, but still quite good. Just put them on a light board and you'll be all right if not enjoying yourself. But they can't you can't have like the wing hovering over a ruin or anything like that. If you're playing on like GW boards or that, you can like generally do whatever you want, go forth and shoot things with great impunity. You measure your pivots. If you're in flight mode, it doesn't matter because you pivot. But if you're measuring to the hull because you're in aircraft mode, you measure the full distance of the wing to wing pivot. So just never pivot is probably or get really good at measuring like really long arcs with or like literally just like measure how wide you are, figure out how big the circle of your turning is and what percentage you're turning, and just like do the Pythagoras or not the Pythagoras, do the trig on your calculator on your phone, and you can probably guess it. But don't do that because that sounds awful, and your opponent will be confused.
Just measure how far that point moves on the table, and it'll be fine. Exactly. It's an abstraction.
Move exclusively in straight lines.
Yep.
It sucks. It really does. It really is awful. Okay. How does going first or second change how a game will play? What factors should I be aware of when thinking about matchups in the context of first or second turn? Asks Ethan. Anthony, as the resident World Years expert, how does going first or second dictate your gameplay?
Actually, less than you would think. So the big thing is that it changes the way you interact with the army mechanic more than anything, actually.
He's actually asking in general, not just about World Years.
Yeah, I just meant like, it's funny because like people are always like, oh, dude, if you go second, the army just sucks. It's like, it's worse, but it's not all downsides. Basically what you're doing changes, right? And especially depending on the mission, what you're doing changes a lot. For as an example, if you hit priority targets, going second sometimes is it's usually worse in general in 10th to go second because tempo matters so much, and because it's the less lethal edition, there's not usually a lot of pieces around for turn 5 regardless. So it's a thing to keep in mind that like there's not going to be a lot of people left at the end of most games. So how you go about pushing for tempo or holding for resources for late game changes a lot depending on which side of the equation.
I feel so European right now, Anthony. My go second win rate's like 14% higher than my go first win rate.
I could not imagine. Now, granted, I go second roughly 1 in 6 games at an event, but still, like, you would think.
Yeah, I have like a 77% go first win rate and a 91% go second win rate. Just like, I love to sit in my go. I remember I spent a bunch of time playing Death Watch, where the only time I would get primary was by going second. So that definitely doesn't not impact it.
I think we might just have to have you play Sons of Sanguinius for these next 2 events, just so I can have my friend back.
Okay. To like kind of sidebar on Anthony's answer, generally the thing that going second does for you in a game of Warhammer is you will win the if I sit in my deployment zone game, right? Which is the theoretical game that you do the math on at the beginning of like, if I just do my normal, will I win this game? Or do I have to be the one that affects change on things? Now, affecting change, like when you're going second, can often just be like, I'm going to play my normal way, which is run at my opponent because my army does that. But I don't have to like, I'm not playing to take you off primary, I'm just playing to stop you stopping me, right? Which is a perfectly reasonable way to approach going second. Sometimes I can sit in my corner and just sit on 10 primary, and you have to make the game state change. If you're going first, you will generally have to be the one that at some point makes something happen to the score sheet to create an advantage on either the primary or the secondary. So generally the ball is in your court if you go first to make something happen, and you have a little bit more agency to play a slower defensive game if you go second. You should generally assess a matchup. How do I, like when you're deploying, you should be like, if I'm going first, do I have the tools in place to affect that change? And if I'm going second, do I have the capacity to arrest my opponent's agency? Those are like the very like ballpark things that going first and second do for you. Some lists are better at one or the other. Some lists really struggle with one version, and some matchups you just don't have the capacity to stop the agency because you going second will just get overrun, or you don't like your opponent will dig in too strong if they go second and you just can't overwhelm them going first. Like there are matchups that can be like that, and some missions will make that better and worse. Priority targets and Purge the Foe being really good examples, where priority targets has 15 points of endgame scoring, which is a very big deal in a mission with 5 objectives, and priority target and Purge the Foe giving you perfect information on kill one, kill more, and also endgame hold more scoring. Generally gives you like a little bit of advantage. So going second, you can generally afford to play a little slower, take a bit more of a backseat in the game, let your opponent try to make changes and punish them for doing so. Whereas when you go first in those missions, or you often have to do something a little more aggressive because you have to affect the change faster. Now, missions and matchups depending, like if you have a massive mismatch, it sometimes just doesn't matter. World Eaters in Search and Destroy going first, even if you are in theory priority target's going to be better going second. The World Eaters are on top of you. This is not going to 5 turns. Play a game, fight each other. But that's not every game you play. A lot of games will be you will have a lot of games that end with like 600 to 800 points alive each that are like very mispositioned to interact with each other, and you're kind of like trying to score primary like adjacently to each other. And in general, going second is favored there. So if you can slow the tempo of the game down, play a slower game, second is generally favored. If you're a high octane player like Anthony, you probably don't see a lot of that, but it does exist in Warhammer for other people, like your teammate John, who loves a 5-turn game, right? So
John plays 5-turn games when
exactly.
he must.
Yeah. I generally don't like seeing turn 5. It's too complicated for me.
Yeah. John does love to just like pull it out. I mean, you put it best. Like if Warhammer was best of 3, that man would never lose another tournament.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
If Warhammer was best of 3 7 turns, he'd never lose a game. But
oh yeah, it's not even close. We'd all be fucked if Warhammer was 7 turns. All right.
Me and Chris played a game of Demons against Votan like a month ago, like right after the data slate, and we genuinely we were counting the scores up, and I was like, oh, this is a 10-10, and then I counted back and I'm like 3 homers, 3 homers, 3 homers, 4 homers, 4 homers, 4 homers. That's not. We just like genuinely have played 6 turns because so little had happened. Like the Votan were just like not engaging the demons. The demons were just like great and clean one on the middle, I guess. And it's just like, oh, we played 6 turns by mistake because so little had died. We just lost track of turns. It was great. Yeah, I think that's generally my perception on first turn, second turn. I know Anthony has a little bit more of a brutality approach to it, but
yeah, I mean, you just
sometimes lists just aren't good at that.
As a general rule of thumb, like I think dragging the game that late is often not correct.
Often not correct, but it can be.
Yeah,
it depends very much on the list.
I've definitely done it. It's just not common.
That's fair. I've played far too many standing my deployments on the shoot list that can't score primary. It's really depressing. Every game I ever played with Deathwatch was a mistake. I'm dead inside.
We just have a few starred questions in the bucket.
We'll just run them. Go for it, Nathan. You can take us through those.
Sure.
Because I'm
no worries. I'll run us into the thank yous for the Church of High Five stuff at the end. Magnus did nothing wrong. Thank you for the $5. Anthony, if running double Helldrake with Angron and Lord of Skulls, what would you fill the list out with? I know they aren't great, but I have them.
I have no idea how many points are even left in that list at that point. That's what, 5 double Helldrake on and 1 Lord of Skulls? You have like 1,000 points left. Take 2 Jackals and fill the rest with 8-bound standard variant so that you get wound rolls at least. And see how it rides. And then take some amount of Exalted if you have points left over. Actually, did I say 2 Jackals? Yeah, I led with 2 Jackals, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so two Jackals fill with standard 8-bound. If you have points left over, take Exalted. Good luck.
Makes sense. The next one is from Red Rum. Saw those player cards of the US team on their website. No way Anthony has started playing only 3 years ago. If he really did, are you looking for a Padawan? Teach me your ways. Seriously, how?
Lots of hyper focus, not a lot of sleep.
It's been more than 3 years now, right?
Yeah, it's been now. I started playing so it's been 4 years and some change now. Because I walked into a Games Workshop the weekend of the Iron Hands Codex came out in 8th. So it was like September of 2019.
So it's like 5.5 years.
No.
We're coming up for 5 years.
Yeah, it's like 4 and some change.
Yeah.
So 4 years, 5 months, X days, something like that. Yeah, it's
play with good players, you will get good at the game. That's really all it is.
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of how I got good is like, this is like a thing I was talking about earlier, is that like we played an event this weekend, and there's like no flame in this story, but like to exasperate how difficult my local meta is, the guy I played round 1 went 5-1 at LVO, and we played a diff tournament, which is like, the 20-0 system. And he scored 13 total diff points across the event because he got 0s in his first 2 rounds and closed the event out with a 13-point win. Really good player. Just my local is a fucking shark-infested knife fight, and it's a good way to get good fast.
Play against the best players in your local region. Play against the best players you can get access to on TTS. Continually get better and get access to better players. And do well at tournaments so people want to talk to you. That's really the best way to get good at Warhammer.
Also,
talk to people who are also good.
Also, like, don't be shy about paying for a coach. That role exists for a reason. If you want to get good faster, you can shortcut a lot of the like spiraling and stuff by like paying someone that's proficient and has experience coaching to do it.
And the last question before we go into wrapping up is from Ayer, which is, what mashed with steak, are you people okay? Jesus.
I feel like I need to clarify that the mashed potatoes are a side to the steak. They don't interact. Like,
yeah, it's mashed potatoes and steak.
Yeah, like
they're there to soak up juices and be good.
Yeah. Yep.
We're not mashing them all together. And we are not okay, is the real answer to that last question.
I mean, I'm doing great, but aside from like that's like I would understand how you would feel that.
Oh, Puma, did you only start a couple of years ago?
Puma must have started this year.
Puma started this year. I definitely believe that.
All right, Nathan, wrap us up. Oh, I'll do the last one. Right, we did a bunch of plugs earlier in the show. They're all in the description. They're all there and read them. But the main ones: youtube.com/statcheck for all the live shows that we do. Patreon.com/statcheck to support us more if you want to get access to the awesome Patreon community, as well as all of the cool things that we run behind the scenes, like the Vibe Check League and Miniature Opportunity Golf. Stat-check.com/coaching to get help from either myself, Jeremy, or Typhus if you want to develop yourself as a 40k player. And thank you so much to everybody for being with us for episode 81, Sons of Slamguinius. We are now going to run the post-creditsy bit where Nathan thanks all the 15 tier Patreons.
It's not all of them. It's the ones who
all the ones who have said they're willing to be thanked, which is
not an unsubstantial number of them. So if you join the $15 a month tier, and at some point I'm going to stop advertising it, and you're just going to have to find it, I will thank you at the end of this. And at some point, I think we'll probably transition to putting it in the show notes. But for now, I'm going to say it out loud because it amuses me. So thank you to Fungus, Citronaut Emoji, Dan F, Hog Emoji, David Clark, and Archon Rahal. Yes, I will say the emojis because that's what you asked for.
The emojis are so good.
So thank you to all of those members of our Chris Pie 5 tier. You make the work that we do amazing and awesome. Also, thank you
to
real merch
coming soon. I'm going to preview on stream because it's cool.
Oh yeah, but also thank you to Iyer because he's the newest member of our $15 a month tier. Because I got an email notification.
I'm going to share the one picture that Cliff shared because it's cool.
Oh yeah, you get a tiny preview of
Yeah,
our
you're
new
gonna get a
merch
tiny
that we're
preview of the upcoming StatCheck merch. We should have it hopefully within the next like couple of weeks, maybe a month. Just depends on the time coming through.
Yeah, we're still finalizing this. So this is a preview of a first draft of some merch.
This one. Hopefully that's visible. It's
Even
very
if it's
dark
not,
black on black, but don't worry about it.
even if it's not, it's kind of way more fun that people can only kind of sort of see it.
Yeah, we have StatCheck merch coming. We are in the process of getting it designed and developed. It will be hopefully coming live in the next month or so. But yeah, so keep an eye out for that. We will obviously have a Patreon discount code as well, because why wouldn't we? All right, I think that is us. Nathan, would you like to take us away with the words?
Bye-bye.